So welcome back to another episode of On the Trail with Bart. I'm planning on going out to play on the Appalachian Trail this summer, and I was just kind of playing around with what kind of mileages are there, how long would it take to walk. I did a similar video a few years ago called the PCT Math Musings. I'll just leave a link to it up there, where I kind of break down what it would take to actually walk the PCT from terminus to terminus, going south to north, and then what kind of daily mileages that would take. So it's just kind of playing around with some of the AT numbers. Per the ATC, about 25% of people who start the AT complete it. When you go down to the just PCT numbers, about 14 to 22% of people who start the PCT complete it. The CDT has the most, 30 to 35% of people who start. So when you look at the Appalachian Trail, it's about 2,190 miles. So how many days, how many miles per day, how does all that come into play? So if you do it in 6 months, most people say they do it in 5 to 6 months. If you do it in 6 months, that's about 366 miles per month, which is about 91 miles per week. So every week you're grinding out 91 miles somehow. If you work that out per day, we don't walk every day. Typically, most people don't walk every day. They walk a bunch of days and they take a Nero, which means you do about half of your normal miles, and then a zero where you don't walk any miles. So if you take that into account, it's about 17 miles a day with a 6-mile Nero. So say Monday through Friday you work and walk 17 miles a day. You do a 6-mile Nero on Saturday, and Sunday you take off. So that gets you 91 miles a week. That would get you there in 6 months. So if you want to do it in 5 months, same kind of math. That's 438 miles per month, and that's 109 miles per week. To compare that on the PCT, that number came out to be about 132 miles a week that you have to do every week on the PCT to make it before the snows come at the northern border. With the AT, it's only 109 miles a week, which is about 20 miles per day, and about a 9-mile Nero and a zero. If you want to do it in 4 months, you want to really get out there, it's 547 miles per month and 136 miles per week. So you're up to like PCT mileages per week, which comes out to be about 25 miles per day, and with an 11-mile Nero and then a zero. Now you can cut the mileage down, of course, by taking less zeros, but that's problematic because people tend to recover. They're eating more. It'd be pretty hard to just walk straight through. To contrast, I was looking at some of the numbers from Grandma Gatewood. so her first hike on the AT was at age 67, so my age, in 1955. She did that in 146 days. So that works out, the math works out to 15 miles per day every day for 146 days. Now, I don't picture Grandma Gatewood as being a big zero taker. If you're walking in Keds with your stuff in a bag on your shoulder, you're probably not big into zeros. But I would imagine she did stop here and there. So it would probably be more like 16 or 17 miles a day for her. Now, this is in 1955, remember. Trail maintenance was probably almost zero. Blowdowns were probably everywhere. There were no bridges, there were no trail angels. So I mean, that's like Navy SEAL kind of stuff for a 67-year-old 5'2" lady to be doing on basically a brand new trail. So I think one of the ways to improve that, all these numbers, or to not get so far behind, is to decrease what's called the ramp up period. I talked about this in my PCT video, where you're ramping up from Campo to Kennedy Meadow South by increasing your just miles per week. And if you can, what I try to do myself is walk in the door pretty ramped up. Now, if you work, I understand people have kids and that kind of stuff. It's hard to knock out 15-mile days at home. But I found the best way to get good at carrying a weight up a hill is to carry a weight up a hill. So going to the gym doesn't do it, working out, leg lifts, but there's something about putting on your full weight backpack and walking up a hill that cannot be replaced. So I try to do that myself, and I'm doing that right now in order to get myself ready, so that when you get to the trailhead, you're already ramped up pretty good. Maybe you can do 14s or that kind of thing. And it's no big change from what you've already been doing at home for the past month or 2 months. But it does take time to ramp up, And that just puts most people farther behind the 8 ball when they should be 100 miles up the trail. They're still back because they had to ramp up. Now you gotta ramp up somewhere. So no one just walks in. I guess there are some athletes that are 22 who could just throw on a backpack and just crank it out. But most normal people can't do that. So I would advise people ramp up not on the trail but at home. The other thing is about why do people get off the trail and don't quit. I think it's just because they get so far behind the 8 ball, they just go, there's just no way I can make it. I would have to do 40s every day. So there are lists I've seen where people list, well, their money and their job or just family. But I think from my experience, most people leave because it's just, they're just mentally toast. They've been pushing this for so long. They've been uncomfortable for so long that they're just toast. And they go, you know what? I've gotten all I need to get out of this. I don't need to suffer another two months. I get it. You're walking here, you're getting up, you're eating, you're going to bed, you're getting up. So keeping your mental aspect up is, I think, the biggest impediment to people walking a long distance. Now, if you're walking like short trails, 100, 200 miles, who cares? It's not a big deal. But when you're trying to crank out a couple thousand miles in a season, man, that's just a different world. And you got to be ready that it's a lot of it's going to suck. But so there is it's got to be a kind of a love affair. You just love doing it. And a lot of people don't really love doing it. And that's going to be tough after a couple of months. So there are other things like snow and that kind of stuff, but mainly it's been said that the first third of the trail is physical, meaning that your body's adjusting. The second third is mental, and then the third of the trail, the last third, is nutritional, meaning that if you lived on gummy bears and junk for the past 2/3 of the trail, so 4 months, that your body's pretty much wiped by the time you get to the 5th month, and you have no reserves left. I think the reason a lot of people get hurt is because they've lived on sugar for 4 months and no protein, so every muscle that just should be stronger is not, and you're just breaking down your body. So that last third, the last nutritional part, I think is really important. But I would also say that the last 2/3 of any long trail, not like 100 miles, 200, above 2,000 miles, the last 2/3 is just mental. You just have to work over. There's you have too much time to think. Think about everything, and there's no interruptions. So people can easily talk themselves out and rationalize, I got to get back to take care of the dog. So those are just my thoughts on mileages. To recap, 6 months, 17 miles a day with a 6-mile Nero and a 0. And I advise taking a 0 rest, because you got to be strong enough to keep doing that for weeks, months on end. If you want to do it in 5 months, that's 20 miles per day with a 9-mile Nero and a 0. So I hope that helps someone, and we'll see you on the trail.